Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Fiber Flux. In this video, I'm going to show you how to add a cute little leather tag onto your hats, scarves, cowls, or whatever you want to add a little something extra to. I've seen these both around the handmade world and also in stores. So it just adds a little something extra to your pieces, and it's super, super easy to do. We're going to be using just a little piece of scrap leather for our project today. I also wanted to mention on the Fiber Flux blog where I originally posted this tutorial, I have a short little list of Etsy stores that will make these tags for you with anything you want them to say. So if you have a business name or an initial, or if you wanted to say that it was handmade, so when you give it to someone, they'll know that you made it. I'll provide that link too in the informational part underneath of this video so you can go see those links as well. But for right now, we're going to make one just out of a little piece of scrap leather. So let's get started. For this project, you'll need the hat or scarf or cowl or whatever you're going to be putting the tag onto. This is actually a free pattern on the Fiber Flux blog. This is called the Cottontail Slouch, and it's a really easy to make slouchy hat with a faux fur pom-pom. In case, just as a side note, in case you'd like to make this hat as well, I can link up to this pattern, and it also has a full video tutorial as well. So you'll need the piece you'll be putting the tag onto. You'll also need some leather. This is a piece of leather. It's kind of shiny on one side and more suede on the back. This is just a little scrap I had on hand. Now you can go to the craft store and buy this, and the link to the Fiber Flux blog post will be found on the information at the bottom of this video of where to purchase this. If you'd like to purchase a piece of, it usually comes in like a larger rectangle. Sometimes you can get multi-packs, and sometimes you can even buy a big bag of scraps if you want to do lots of these tags. This is also a great project for upcycling or recycling some things you may have on hand. So definitely take a trip to your closet and look for things like old purses, belts, maybe an old jacket that you don't wear anymore, garments, even shoes like straps or thin belts, things like that. Just make sure when you're looking for this little pieces of leather, you only need a little rectangle. It's not going to be a lot, but just make sure that it's not too thick, or it's going to be very, very hard to make a tag and kind of fold it over. So this is a piece that's not super thick, but some of the leather they use on like shoes and things like that can be pretty thick. You want it to have a little bit of bend and be flexible. And suede is very thin and flexible too, or calfskin or something like that. Alternatively, you could use vinyl, or I think some people call it pleather, like the faux leather too. If you don't want to use leather, that's perfectly fine. There are other options available as well. You could also, if you don't want to have the leather look, you could use just a nice heavy piece of canvas or something like that. So anyway, you'll need just a little scrap of leather. Now, next, you'll want to decide if you would like to sew your tag on, or if you would like to hot glue it. So if you want to hot glue it, I have my hot glue gun here that's warming up because I'm going to show you how to do it both ways. Now, I really love to just glue something on and be done with it, but we can sew it on as well, so just to show you. Now, I'm going to be using, this is white thread, and you might not want to use white unless you want the stitches to really stand out, but this is something that's a little heavier than your just regular run-of-the-mill thread. This is, I just got this in the sewing aisle. This is Coats, and it's called Cotton Hand Quilting, and it's really hard to show you on this video, but it's a little bit thicker and sturdier and heavier than regular soft, that's kind of soft, shiny thread. But this is, it comes on a spool like regular thread, but it is a little bit thicker. I actually bought this by accident for something else, and then when I went to do this project, it seemed to work well. Also, you'll need a needle. I wanted to also recommend that getting a needle through a piece of leather is not the easiest thing in the world. You'll also want a thimble, or you can do what I do and just kind of press it against the table to get that needle to pop through. So just to save your fingers, you can use a tabletop surface, or a thimble is super handy for this project. So let's get started. we're going to begin by cutting our leather. Now, I found that a nice size tag for this particular piece was 1 inch wide and about 2 inches long. So I have here a tape measure, which could be handy, or you can just eyeball it. Sometimes I just like to eyeball it, and it's totally fine to do it that way as well. Now, my piece of leather already has a 90-degree angle, so I'm just going to kind of go by that, okay? So if we lay our little tape measure or ruler, whatever you have, down, you can kind of just do it that way. So I'm just going to cut it in a straight line. Your scissors, having a sharp pair of scissors is super helpful for this project as well. Okay, now I want mine to be about 2 inches long, so I'm just going to snip that off and make it that. Now you can also, when you cut leather, sometimes you can get little crumbs that are, hold on, my little piece is not straight. There we go. This is what happens when you don't draw on your piece of leather and just eyeball it. Sometimes you have to neaten it up a little bit. But anyway, you can get these little crumbs, and they'll kind of just fall off. See how I'm getting some crumbs here? You can just kind of like wipe it off before you attach it, and they'll just kind of fall off. Okay, so I have my little piece of leather. Now you can use the shiny side if you like, or you can use the suede side. It's totally up to you. So let's get all this out of the way. And we're going to get I'm going to show you how to sew it and glue it. So you can do either way you like. Okay, so what we're going to do is figure out what we want to put on here. If we want to do this shiny side or the suede side, just figure out what you like better. I think we're going to do the shiny side. So all you're going to do is just take it. Now I have like just a really thin brim here. So I just kind of made my tag so that it would just come up to that brim and look nice and neat. And then you can just fold it right over, okay? So what I would recommend is turning it inside out and just kind of sewing it that way. Okay, so let's get a piece of our thread, and you might want to use a piece that matches your leather, or you want to contrast like I'm going to be doing. It's just dependent on what kind of look you'd like to have. Now I am going to try and thread this thing without... Oh, good, I did it on the first try. That almost never happens with thread. Okay, so just thread your needle, and I'm going to just bring both tails down to the bottom, and then we're just going to sew it on. Now I mentioned before that you can kind of use a thimble to save your finger, or you can just press it against the tabletop. So I'm going to come up from the bottom and then just kind of... Now, thankfully, we're only needing to do a few stitches here because it's a little tricky to get through. Now see how I'm just pressing it against the table? Now a thimble, again, would be very helpful too. See, I'm just pressing it against the table, and it's making that needle come right up, okay? Now because this is so thick, just give yourself enough time. It's just a few stitches, but it's gonna take a few minutes to get through these 2 layers of leather and your knit or crochet piece that you're doing. Now you don't have to do this on a handmade project. You can add this to, I'm just pressing this against the table to bring that needle up. It's just helping me instead of using my finger. You can add, I think this adds kind of like a trendy high-end look to your projects, but you can also add this to a store-bought piece to get add a little bit extra to something you've purchased. Okay, so I am just going all the way across here. Now I'm going to be doing a running stitch. So I'm skipping over. See how I skipped over? Here's my first stitch. And I just skipped over about a stitch, another space across, about a stitch width across. Okay, so I'm just coming over here. Now again, I'm just pressing this on the table. Stitching through leather is not the easiest thing in the world. Now, if you have a special needle and, a fancy sewing machine, you can do that as well. I have a sewing machine, but I don't have the needle, so we're doing all this by hand. Now, I'm going to go back down in. Now, we already have that hole created, so I'm just going right back down in there, again, using our table. Thank goodness for the table. That's helping my fingers out today. And then we're just going to come back down. Okay? So you get the idea. Now I would probably, again, we got to push that down a little bit. I would probably, got to wiggle it till it comes out there. There we go, okay? Now you want to put a few more stitches in there. Let's do one more with our thread here, just to get it nice and secure. Okay, I'm just coming up through. Now I've even seen some, I saw this in a store, it was store-bought, and they did kind of like an X, and that was really cute too. So you can get experimental, you can even add an initial. So you would just want to come all the way across. Let me just add one more stitch. Again, I'm just pressing this onto the table. There we go. Okay, now we're going to come right back down in there. Okay, so we have our little stitches all the way across, and what we can do is cut this and tie a knot just to finish it up, and you can weave it in if you need to up under the label. So if we turn it back around, we have this little stitchy tag on here, okay? Now I'm going to show you how to do the hot glue gun. This is the way I like to do it because it takes 2 seconds and then you're done. But stitching it looks pretty too. Okay, so we're going to switch over to the hot glue now. Okay, so I took that tag off that we just made and I went ahead and cut another one. Okay, so what we're going to do is figure out the placement and then just fold it back over just like that. Okay, so what we can do is turn our hat inside out. I'm going to work from the back first. Okay, now put the glue onto the leather, not the knit or crochet part, because it'll kind of, if you try to put glue on these stitches, it'll kind of like soak into there and it could go someplace you don't want it to go. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of hold that on there, and then we can turn our hat right side out and then we'll glue the front. Okay, so I have my little tag here. Okay, and this glue dries super fast. Okay, so I'm just going to put some glue on the tag. You don't need a whole lot. It'll stick on there really well. Okay, so I'm just getting my hot glue. And try not to go too close. See how I went a little close to the edge here? Try not to go too close because you don't want it to like ooze out, because that wouldn't look very nice on your hat. Okay, so fold your tag up, just like that. And then you're just going to let it completely cool and dry before you wear it. You definitely do not want to wear this before it's dry, because that glue could get stuck in your hair and that would just be an awful mess. So make sure this is totally cool and dry. And then your little leather tag is on there. Now, if you go to the Fiber Flux blog, where I originally had this post, I have a list of Etsy shops that will make these tags for you. They also have some that are more like, let me get a little piece of leather so I can, sometimes it's easier for me to explain than to show you. You can get tags that have a hole in each corner and you can sew them on to your hat like that. And some of the Etsy sellers will even personalize them. So if you have someone you're giving it to, or if you want it to say, handmade or something like that, you can get them to put anything you want on there. So if you go to the Fiber Flux blog, I have a list, I think it's like 2 or 3 sellers that you can get personalized tags from, and it'll just add a little bit of extra to your projects. So that is how you add a leather tag onto a hat. It looks very cute, makes it look a little bit something extra. So thanks so much for watching, and be sure and click the subscribe button to get all the latest Fiber Flux video updates. Thanks again.